So, Adrian, Rocio talked about government intrusion, and we're all here talking about the importance of promoting our family values. What has been the work of Lambda Legal in East LA in talking to people about Proposition 8?
In East LA, we've been focusing, on doing outreach to the Latino community and also making sure that we have, materials and our outreach in, Spanish, and making sure that, we're reaching out to the East LA communities. A lot of times people, again, have that idea that, families that are not going to want to talk about sexuality, about gay marriage, about those kind of issues. But, I can tell you when we've been having, a lot of phone banking, a lot of events in the office, and we have been having a lot of families come, and both, two mothers with their children, as well as, people who are bringing in their parents, their friends. We've had people who, come and they're, I'm a straight ally, but, my best friend is gay. And so I think it's been really inspiring to see, that those are the families, we're working for. And that it doesn't, for the Latino community, we know that family's not always just a mom and a dad, and also a lot of times it extends to include a lot of other people as well, that we make as part of our family. And I think, when it comes to Proposition 8, it's really important to make sure that people don't just focus on the details, of it being, to annul gay marriage here in the state, but also to know that in the larger context, it really is a way for the government to redefine what our family should be, and for the government to decide who we should be with or shouldn't be. And also, we also, make sure to tell people that this isn't about whether you support gay marriage or not, but this is about whether you support government intrusion. This is about whether you support, discrimination being written into the Constitution. So making sure that that's really the larger picture, it's not about one, right that is part of, the larger LGBT community, but, it's an attack on our freedom. And it's being disguised as, oh, it's just, marriage, why can't they just settle for domestic partnerships? And we have, we always have to bring up, having two different systems for the same thing that puts one, group in the other one is never the right thing to do. We've seen that with segregation, and that, when you create two separate but, supposedly equal systems, they're never gonna be truly equal. And, and just because you have, people who get a domestic partnership, not all the rights that you have in a marriage are guaranteed to domestic partners. And we have seen that through all the different legal battles that we've had to, to fight in court to take domestic partnerships and slowly increase one more right and another one and another one. But, when somebody gets married, marriage gives you 1,100 rights. And so it's going to take a long time for us to go and add one by one. And so that's what we're saying, let's not create two different systems. Let's not write discrimination into the Constitution.
Right. Separate rights are unequal rights. Well, as I've talked to people on the bus, as I've talked to people in Cypress Park where I live, folks are saying, listen, abortion and gay marriage, maybe, but really, I can't. It's a moral issue, in my faith, I just don't believe in that. How, if you were knocking on someone's door, you had a minute to respond to that, or 30 seconds to respond to that, how would you respond to those people who are saying, listen, abortion and gay marriage are against my morals?
I think the first thing you'd have to say is that I think people don't realize that both of these initiatives are actually constitutional amendments in California. And that means that if you may not feel that way today, but when you realize that it's implemented and it's implemented incorrectly, like the 3 strikes law, like affirmative action in California, it's too late to change it. It's too late to change your mind. Because in order to change a constitutional amendment, a constitutional change, it takes 2/3 of the state legislature to change that. We can't even pass a budget because it takes 2/3 of a legislature to pass that. So imagine how long it's going to take to overturn something that's this discriminatory in terms of healthcare, access, and the rights. Just downright civil rights. I mean, it just seems ridiculous to even have this conversation in 2008, yet we may have to spend another 25 years, like this gentleman said, trying to get one right at a time, one right at a time, one right at a time, and it may never get to the point where it's supposed to be.
The other thing I would say in terms of Prop 4 is that it's not about abortion at all. It's really not. What it is about is thinking about that situation of a scared young woman who cannot talk to her family and what's going to happen to her. What's going to happen to her if she can't do that? She's going to do what she needs to do, and she's going to do it without having, our extended families with her. That's what it's about. And so when we ask people to think about their own morality, do they want a young woman to be harmed? Do they want a young woman to possibly lose her life because she is in that desperate situation where she has no place to turn that's safe and that's caring and that has, adequate health care like she would have without Prop 4? Yeah.
I would also add that, I'm going to go along with the Prop 4, that I would agree that it's not about abortion, but it's also about a young woman's right to make a decision about her body. And this is a decision that she has, no matter what age. This is particularly on a youth right, who cannot vote, who cannot actually change the way the laws are, and that's wrong. And eventually this individual will become 18 and older, and this individual will also have to make a decision later on in life whether or not it's your moral right. It's about an individual's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would say to the person who, is kind of not wanting to be supportive of, of our movement is that, whatever your own moral feelings are, there's no reason why you should write those into the California Constitution. If somebody doesn't want to do something, they don't have to, but don't take that right away from somebody else.
Absolutely.
And if I might just add one quick thing, we've been talking about this being a constitutional amendment. One thing to remind folks is that the California Supreme Court has already ruled that parental notification is unconstitutional. And so they have found,
with Prop 8,
yes.
As they have with Prop 8.
And
not for today.
exactly. And so they have, the California Supreme Court has already looked at the California Constitution and said that our communities and our young people and our families have constitutional rights. So those are already laws. And what these efforts are trying to do is overturn what has already been decided under the Constitution. And so that's really important to remember.